Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of Teaching Tales. I am Brent Coley, and joining me today, my friend and fellow elementary principal, Todd Schmidt.
Woohoo!
That's right. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, this is exciting.
We are at the Lead 3 conference down in Redondo Beach. We just finished up 3 amazing days of learning, and Todd, I've been looking forward to sitting down and talking with you and sharing stories. That's what this podcast is all about. And topic for today, we thought, like, what kind of stories do we want to tell? And we just came up with, because we get often asked the question, do you like being a principal?
I would never want your job. God, you look, I don't know. Why did you leave the classroom?
Yeah.
Get asked that a lot.
Yeah. Well, Todd, you know what? I jumped the gun. For people who aren't familiar with you, give them a little background. Where are you now? What did you do before you became a principal?
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
Let's see here. Well, this is my 5th year as an elementary school principal. My school is in Corona Del Mar. It's Harborview Elementary. And beautiful school, great campus, great kids, great families, amazing teachers. I was 2 years prior to that, I was an assistant principal at a high school. Costa Mesa High School, and then I spent the 13 years of the first part of my career I was in the classroom, and I mostly was with middle school kids because I love middle school kids. They are a crack up to me. They make me laugh, hormones, the whole 9 yards. That was a blast. But I when you make that jump and people wonder why you're doing that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a little unknown of what's this going to lead to? How's this going to be? Am I going to miss the classroom?
Yeah.
Where I was in complete control of just how everything went in those 4 walls, and so now
not as much control.
Not as much control. You think you do. People think you have control,
no.
But there's there's definitely a lot of stuff that can be stressful. But the best part, I think, about being a principal, that one of the things is just the joy that you get to have, just like the freedom of being able to just make your day as much as you can. You have the choice of being able to make it as positive as you want, and
mm-hmm.
I love that fact. And so I know we're going to talk about it, but yeah, that's what I did prior. So this is my 20th year in education. It's pretty much all I've known I've wanted to do. Since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to be a teacher and educator, and making that jump to administrator, it has proven to be really, really worthwhile. I am awesome. Very, very happy that I made that choice.
Very cool. Wow, I didn't know all of you, but we're very similar in terms of it. Like, I did 15 years before going in, 2 years as an AP as well for me, and now I'm in year 4.
Yeah.
So, and I was at the middle school.
Yep.
For the AP. So.
And you're actually where your school was right near where my first job was, because my very first job was at Temecula Middle School.
Really?
So it was town right next to yours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
the question that we get asked, and it's funny that you say, like, I would never want your job, but for the people who perhaps are listening, who do want this job,
mm-hmm.
who are pursuing perhaps administration. I mean, because I think you're like me. When I got into it, I wanted to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And when people said, "Oh, you want to be a principal someday?"
Nope.
Are you crazy? No.
Yeah.
I became a teacher because I wanted to be a teacher,
mm-hmm.
and doors opened and
mm-hmm.
things worked out, and I felt called in that direction. So that's where we are. But for those listening who are thinking, I think I could make an impact, I could mm-hmm. make a difference, because you hear a lot of, like we said, I don't want your job. This purpose of this broadcast is to tell people why you want this job, because are there negatives? Yes. But there's a ton of positives, and we want to share that. So what are some of the great
jokingly,
things?
I was just thinking about this. This is funny to me when you were talking about it, because one of the downsides that when you're in the classroom is you are a mercy to a bell. And when I became a site administrator, the first thing I'm like, oh my gosh, I can go to the bathroom anytime I want, because I don't have to be in there at that bell. So that just makes me laugh when my teachers, they say that. They're like, well, I have to go to the bathroom. It's recess. I'm like, oh, okay, enjoy. You know? But that all kidding aside, though, I think when you talked about a calling towards making an impact,
mm-hmm.
and many of us, when we wanted to do this, it was because there were a couple of reasons. Either A, we had an amazing principal who really inspired us and showed us that it is possible to make an impact beyond just the 4 walls of your classroom.
Yeah.
And making an impact on an entire site and helping kids beyond just that. I think those are the reasons why we were like, okay, I really feel drawn to this. I've also seen the impact that a incredible principal can have on a culture, on a community, and the impact that has. And how far it goes, you know, the ripples is pretty profound. And I've had that impact and I've had that experience. And so that was kind of what led me to that. And it is very, very true. The things that I love about my job, the relationships you build.
Yeah.
Not just, and I mean, the kids are the most important part, and I love it. And I mean, at an elementary school, come on.
You're a rock star.
You're a rock star.
You're a rock star.
You get hugs and high fives and fist bumps, and you get to create handshakes with kids, and it's amazing.
Yep.
And they see you and they light up. And so that part is just truly like just the best. I get more hugs
Yeah.
than probably most people do.
If wealth was measured in hugs, fist bumps, and knee-high hugs from kindergarten, just fist bumps and high fives, we would be very wealthy.
Wealthy
individuals.
indeed, yes. And so I love that part. And I even get them from sixth graders too, which, you know, is still very, very cool that you get
That's
to,
telling.
Yeah,
that
it is.
You're making relationships.
And so and then with, you know, when you get to work with a group of teachers who have a vision for doing what's best for kids and want to have kids beating down, you know, like there's several people who have mentioned before about you want kids to be beating down the door rather than beating the door to get out, like watching the clock.
Yeah.
And when you are fortunate enough to have teachers that you get to work with that have that same passion, it's amazing because the conversations just fill you up.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, oh my God, we're gonna get to do something pretty amazing here. So those are I think some of the big overarching things that you get out of being a principal that I didn't get as a teacher.
Yeah. You, as a teacher, you see the light bulb moments. I mean, that was one of the things when I left the classroom. On a daily basis as a teacher, you see those light bulbs. You see in kids' faces, bing, I get it. It's different in that we don't see, but we do still see it when we're popping in classrooms, but now we see it on teachers'
faces.
So if a teacher's saying, hey, can you show me how to do use this app or whatever like that, and then we were talking before we started recording, when they come and they say, hey, I tried that, it was awesome, come into my classroom to see it.
You need to be in here to watch this.
Yes.
And the cool part about that is that when the light bulb goes off on a teacher's face, you know that's going to then impact the kids because then they're going to want to make that light bulb go off on those kids' faces. And when you get to go in and kids are laughing and engaged and you're like, okay, I had a small part in that.
Yeah.
I had a small part in making a kid's day. You know, that is just so wonderful. Those are the moments that fill you up. So when all the other stuff is happening and you're kind of slogged down in it, you go back to those things. My master teacher gave me a suggestion. She said, you want to keep like a box or something that you put all of the memories that you get, like the cards that kids write you, the photos that you take, that all of those things, and you just keep them. And so when you have those days that are awful and you're just like, oh my God, you take that box out and you just kind of start, you don't even have to read everything. You just kind of go through it and you're going, okay, I do make an impact.
Yeah.
I have touched somebody's life. And, you know, when they come back to see you and those kids come back to see you, or when teachers come into your office, just say thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I think of a teacher I had who was really worried about the class assignment I gave her one year. She had a combo. She was really, and she was not happy.
Yeah.
And we did, and I've talked about this before, we did Positive Post-it Day. And for those who don't know, it's just a day where you just basically give people Post-its, and it's positive, life-affirming messages that kids, teachers, parents write, and you just post them everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like that scene in Bruce Almighty where there's just Post-its everywhere. It's awesome. And she came, and I was actually in my office for a brief moment, and she came in, and she made sure I was in there, and she had a Post-it on there, and all it said was, I love my combo. And she put it right in the center of my door, smiled at me, and walked out. And I was like, okay, all of that stuff, that Post-it is in.
You still have that
I still have that Post-it.
Yep.
I still have that Post-it because it was like I'm doing my job, and I'm trying to make an impact, and that just made me feel like, okay, I'm on the right track.
And those Post-its can go both ways, because that reminds me, it's like the influence that we can have. Yes, is it a hard job? And those days where it's like, you know, I just need to go spend 10 minutes in a kindergarten classroom and restore my faith in humanity because it's not going well. But you mentioned that Post-it, that teacher gave you a Post-it, you still have it, made your day, probably filled your tank for a week, if not more. When we are able to do that for kids, like your positive post-it day, or teachers, when we write, sometimes, I'm sure you'll do this, you write a little post-it or whatever, and you think it, but I think sometimes it's easy to underestimate what impact that can have. I mean, I was in a few years ago in a teacher's classroom. So I was walking in the classroom, and I walked past past her computer, and I noticed a Post-it stuck on the monitor, and it caught my attention because the handwriting looked familiar. I wasn't trying, but it was my Post-it. It was a Post-it, and it was a simple message like, "Hey, thanks for all you do," type thing. I didn't even remember writing it, but she did, and it meant enough that she put it. She put it on her as on, like, she's looking at the computer multiple times a day, and she's going to see that. So it obviously, that's the great part, kind of going back to what you're saying, is we make great relationships with students, but to be able to influence teachers as well. That's that's because I think you had mentioned earlier, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, that I miss the classroom. You ever asked if you miss the classroom?
Yes.
I'm asked it all the time, and my answer is every single day.
All the time.
And if we don't, we should quit. I mean, I firmly believe the moment that a site administrator misses the classroom, we're gonna be ineffective, because then it's like, oh, now it's the ivory tower syndrome, and it's like we have to stay connected. But do you ever have those situations out in public where you see kids? I mean, do you live?
I don't live in the same district I am. I did. When I was teaching, I did. But, it's funny, though, is that as an administrator, though, because I do a lot of stuff with the community, you make it a point to go to, like, kids, you cheer them
baseball
on
games
and when you can and whatnot. Or, it's where my school is a really great community. And so it's a great place to go. And my wife grew up there. So we've been in there enough times where I've run into kids, run into parents. And, it's nice when they don't run away. It's nice when they're always, like, one time this is one story that just kind of came to my brain. My wife and I were going out to dinner, and we're at this restaurant in where my school is. And at the end of the meal, they brought the check and they said, "Oh, someone already paid for it." And it was like one of those things where it's like, wait, what? So we're looking, and at another section, one of my families saw us walk in. I didn't see them at all, and they just basically did it. And all they did was they stood up, waved at me, and walked out. I couldn't even get to them fast enough,
thank you,
or say, "What are you doing?" or any of this. But it was just, that's when it matters.
Yeah.
And that's when those are those little things. There's not a moment in every day where I don't go, I love my job.
Yeah.
I love my job. There are times definitely where I'm like, I hate my job.
Why did I do this again?
Why did I leave the classroom again? But
when you have those, like I had a similar incident very recently in a restaurant. It was Rubio's. Friday night, I'm picking up dinner to bring home for the family. I'm waiting for my order, and I see one of my students. I had the same type of thing. I hadn't seen them. I'm sitting there, and she comes walking up to me, and she's just like, with the big old smile on her face, just like, "Hi, Mr. Coley." And I was like, "Hey, sweetie, how you doing?" Gave her a little hug, and then the dad kind of waved and came over, and the dad said, "Well, I told her not to bother you." And I said, No. I said, "I love that. I mean, that makes my day." And he said, I never forget, he said, I said, "You know what, we don't want to bother him. It's nighttime." And he said that the girl looked at him and said, "Dad, I just want to say hello."
Yeah.
And it was that type of thing that, at middle school, they would run from you. If they see at the mall, it's like when I was an AP at the middle school, "Oh, geez, there's Mr. Coley. Like, let's run the other way." But what you find now is they want, "Dad, I just want to say hello. I just want to," and it's like they're giddy to do that, which is like just a reminder that, and it may not even be a student that that you thought you were making a huge connection with.
Right.
But because this was a student that, but it's like I hadn't spent a whole bunch of time with this student.
Right.
So yet she's still, "Dad, I just want to say hello.
Just want to say hello.
I just want to say hello."
And, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot when you, and again, it is those little moments. It's like when you get to go in and read to a class,
Oh,
you know, and you're in there and they're all just looking at you. And I've even done it with sixth grade where they're all, and you have these conversations. Kindergartners are great. They're like, well, can I sit in your lap while you read it? So now it becomes kind of a game of, okay, one person can, or sometimes it's like, no, because I will have 12 of them in my lap. But you know, that is, those are just those little magical moments. So you have, it's kind of like having, like I said, that box that holds all your memories, is that you have those little moments that just kind of get into your brain. You're like, I'll remember that. Like just this conversation just went ka-bing, ka-bing, ka-bing. I'm like, all right, it restores my faith in what I do and the impact that we can have.
and I'm glad you mentioned that. I have the same thing. I have a purple file folder, and it says "Feel Good File."
Nice.
And you get that note from parents. You get that. I have an email one, same type of thing. A parent emails or a teacher emails or student emails and says thank you, appreciate. And that'd be like the moral of this this broadcast is like, whether you're a teacher or an administrator, and if you're a teacher wanting to become an administrator, there are good things. I mean, is it a hard job?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a very hard job. But the rewards,
Yeah.
I mean, they're different. People would always ask me when I became, it's like, is it harder? It's different. I don't know if you would,
Yeah.
I mean, it's harder in some ways.
Right.
I'm not grading papers every night, but I'm also up at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
when the
Well,
brain won't turn off trying to solve those problems.
And that's the thing, is that, you know, like at the times that you wake up and you're like, oh, and that's one of the things that my teachers asked, and there was an article that was written of like, I wish my principal knew, and so somebody took it and they I wish my teachers knew.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like that thing from, you know, like, you don't know the number of times I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about you, or thinking about how we can make this better, or how, you know, oh wow, I have a great idea that I want to share with you, and I'm like, I can't text you at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I would like to.
Yeah.
Or okay, I figured out how we could help with it, how we can help this kiddo, you know, or any, you know, I know you're struggling with this parent because they're not seeing what you're seeing, but here's how I think we can make this work. And then you get to that spot, and again, just when it's that thank you of just like, thank you for helping. And, you know, sometimes it's so simple and so small. And you know, those words, again, we're like, we want to make sure that people are feeling validated and whatnot. And it's nice sometimes when you feel validated, when you're like, okay,
It's
that
nice.
is very, very
It's
cool.
nice to get that, because I think oftentimes you don't hear the thank yous as much as.
And we would say we don't do it for the kudos. I don't need an award.
No.
I don't need anything. I don't need a certificate.
No.
When that little girl came in, I just want to say hello.
Oh.
That hug, and when I get it, and if you get it from a staff member or you get it from a parent, that thing right there, you're just like, okay, I can do this another day.
Yep.
I can absolutely, yes. And
It fills your tank. It fills your tank.
fills your tank.
And
it reminds you to fill other people's too.
Yes, it's like, boy, I need to, actually, this is just reminding me, I need to call one of their fellow principals. So, Mark, Dr. P, you're going to be getting a phone call from me, because he's doing amazing things. And every time I see his teachers in public or at a training or something like that, they're telling me how great a job he's doing. And I was telling my wife just the other day, like, I need to call him, and I need to tell him that, because I'm sure some of his teachers are telling him that, but I'm also sure that not as many as he maybe would like to hear, but it would do him, it will, because if he's having one of those days, that phone call that I make could make all the difference in the world. So I think, for anyone listening, Mom, Dad, thanks for listening. It's like, when someone does something, it's like with teacher, parent, student, let them know. Yeah. Because it makes a difference.
Well, you know, like there's a principal in Chicago, Melissa I never say her name right, Cartismus, and Joe Sanfilippo took her idea of the 100 days, 100 phone calls. Oh. You know, when we talk about the positive phone call of the day, it's amazing to me the number of times that you have found out you just made somebody's day with something as simple as that. Like, they're having a bad, it's like the timing always seems to be right there. And so it's just, again, that reminder, because people need that.
Yeah.
And they need that, and they need the affirmation, and they just need to know that, you know what, somebody recognizes my kid, or as a kid, somebody recognizes that I'm here.
Yeah.
And they see me doing something positive.
Yeah.
I love that.
And we in our position, teachers' position, I mean every position, but especially the influence that we as principals or assistant principals are, gosh, we can affect so many lives, and indirectly the lives of those around. I mean, the kiddo who comes home happy, Mr. Coley gave me a high five. Mr. Coley called me by name. Mr. Coley played tetherball with me. Now that girl or that boy is happy at home and doing the homework and not giving mom or dad a hard time. I mean, it has that ripple effect. So, good stuff, man.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Thanks for
seriously. That was fun.
That is fun.
You were on fire today. I got to be honest with you. For those of you who don't know, he just did a 3-hour presentation on Google Drive. You need the affirmation too.
Oh, thank you.
Because that was probably one of the best presentations I've seen, because not only was the applicability there, the practicality there, but the energy in the room where people were getting those little spots where you're just like, your mind's just going, mind blowing, and you're like, just little nuggets that just make it. So, Mr. Coley, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting me be here.
Absolutely.
I really, really do appreciate it. This is a perfect way to cap off
a great conference. A great conference. Well, Todd, thank you. Really, really, really appreciate it. And for those of you listening, thank you. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe.
Please.
iTunes, Google Play, and I heard, I don't remember another podcast, it was saying like, hey, and if you like what you hear, drop us a review. Not because, like you said, not because we're looking for awards or anything like that, but I'm told the more reviews, the more people see it, and the more people we can reach, and that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Everyone loves stories. We're trying to encourage. Hopefully we've done that today. So if you're looking to be a principal, it's a great job.
It is a great job.
It's a great job. It's a hard job, but so's a teach. But fulfilling. That's it. And you walk home thinking, I made a difference today.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about, making the difference in the lives of kids. So once again, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Mom and Dad, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And till next time, have a good one. And I almost forgot, if you have not already added Todd to your professional learning network, be sure to follow him on Twitter. You can find him at TS Schmitty. That's TSSCHMIDTY. You can also get his blog at tschmitty.blogspot.com. Have a good one.